Hey everybody, welcome to today's video. I'm out doing some traveling. Hope you're doing great wherever you're watching this video from, but I had some breaking news that I wanted to bring to you, and it turns out that one of Maduro's top inner circle members has come out with some information that kind of confirms some things that we might have known, but at this point it makes it to where it's undeniable. So I wanted to break that down for you. It's going to be a full dive into the revelations from this top member of the Maduro regime, and it's going to highlight a lot of things that I think we've suspected have been going on. But let's just go ahead and dive right into it. So if you look at this article, it is from the Dallas Express, and they obtained an explosive letter that was addressed to President Trump from Hugo Carvajal Barrios, the former director of military intelligence for Venezuela and once one of the most powerful figures inside the government of Hugo Chavez and then Nicolas Maduro himself. So the man who basically has Venezuela on lockdown. And I want to do a full deep dive into exactly what the revelations were and what that tells us about where this campaign is going to go from here. And the boat strikes. We've also got breaking news. Just yesterday evening, there was another boat strike on narco-terrorists. Looks like there was 4 of them. I'll pop over to that briefly. I can't show the full video because YouTube will not like that. But basically, the boat strike took place. It was very similar. Looks like a very similar hit as to what we've seen in the past. So now we are in the double digits of these boat strikes. And I'll break down a little bit about what is going on with the boat strikes because it's going to tie directly into this information, this breaking information that we are getting from this top level informant that is basically spilling all the beans on Maduro. At this point, there's basically nothing that we're not going to know about this dude. So, okay, just a quick overview. So, obviously, things have escalated since September of 2025. We've seen more and more of these boat strikes happen. It's said that SEAL Team 6 was actually operating and behind the scenes on the September 2nd boat strike, and that they were using different assets, hand-launched drones. Basically, they could have gone out in fast boats, gotten close to this narcotics boat, and then launched those hand-launched drones, and then gotten really close in detailed imagery of exactly what was in those boats. But as we can see from the target imagery itself, I mean, this type of a picture here, guys, this is a very high fidelity feed, and it looks to me like it's from an MQ-9 Reaper. So this most recent boat strike, if I had to guess, I would say it's from an MQ-9 Reaper, and that's just because of the fidelity that it shows. And that's what we've seen in a lot of the strikes so far, is that extreme high fidelity, pointing out, different packages, the narco-terrorists themselves, so we can see all that. But again, why are those boats rolling in, and why are they maybe going through certain routes that just seem like they have done it for decades? Well, as it turns out, there isn't an accident to that happening. And that's why I want to bring you the details, the real true details. So we've talked about fentanyl, we've talked about the cocaine that has been on these boats, but it looks like from what we're hearing from this top level official that this is a very calculated, very coordinated narcotics soft war that's, now turning from a soft war into a bit hard. There's a few hard things that are going on, as we know. But Carvajal, he was extradited from Spain after a lengthy international manhunt. And then he says that he has written this letter to President Trump to atone and to alert Americans to what he describes as a coordinated, this is the part that's really, I want everybody to know, coordinated state-directed campaign targeting the United States. So I think this sheds a lot of light on why the Trump administration has been so hard on Maduro. And Maduro basically is like, what? I'm just here, hanging out. I'm just here being a good dude. But we are seeing the signs that this is a coordinated attack and it's a coordinated war. It's an all-out war. So a little bit more behind the scenes. So when I think of this, it's basically building on the long-standing allegations of Venezuelan complicity in trafficking drugs. All right. So that's kind of the main thing, is the complicity of the drug trafficking, because, we get it. Cartels can be operating in the Wild West. The cartels can be operating and not have anybody in charge except for the cartel boss themselves. But in this case, it really truly is starting to shape up like this is a complicit, it's beyond a complicit act from the Maduro regime, and it includes corruption among military officials that actually protect the smugglers. And here's something wild. They actually protect some of the smuggling routes in the Orinoco Delta with Mi-17 Russian helicopters. I mean, is this for real? Russian helicopters? Like, yeah, I know that they have a lot of Russian tech, but basically they are using their Air Force, their army to protect these smuggling routes. And that's what's coming in through this report. So we've seen the narco boat strikes, but if you look at the way that this has actually gone down, it's really the coordinated attack from the top level government officials that is pinned from this informant who's actually in a United States federal prison, and it was addressed to Donald Trump and the American public. So he was once a top Venezuelan intelligence official under Chavez and Maduro, and he has leveled explosive accusations against the Maduro regime at this point. Breaking news happening right now. Carvajal, he defected in 2017 and he pleaded guilty to U.S. narco-terrorism charges, and he portrays Venezuela's socialist government as a narco-terrorist organization, something that we've all kind of thought about, and is basically it's probably gonna break wide open. So you guys are getting it from the source. It's at a smaller outlet right now. Who knows? Will the corporate media cover it? We don't know. All bets are off when it comes to that. That's why I'm here, trying to bring you guys this information. So he claims that these activities are deliberate state policies designed to undermine U.S. security, echoing long-held American indictments while providing insider details on collaborations with Colombian guerrillas, Cuban and Russian intelligence, and Hezbollah. So all the people that you really don't want to have over at a cocktail party, unless you want things to go boom. It was released via that letter, and it is arriving right now amidst heightened U.S. and Venezuela tensions, including that massive naval deployment that you've seen me covering on this channel. But Carvajal's disclosure, it could booster U.S. legal and military actions, but it also does raise questions about his motive. Like, why is he releasing this now? Why couldn't it have happened later? Is he feeling a little bit of the support waning? You know, there was just that big, massive billboard in Times Square that says no U.S. war against Venezuela. Now, the way that it's being framed is like a boots on the ground Afghanistan, Iraq style war. We all know that's not going to happen. That doesn't seem to be this administration's MO. If you look what happened in Iran, surgical strikes, take down the nuclear program, let Israel go in and mop some stuff up, but we're not going to put American boots on the ground. We all saw that happen. So Maduro, does he have a little bit of a stake in making sure that Americans think that it would be a full boots on the ground campaign? Of course. That's what he wants everybody to think. We know that. But again, what are the motives of Carvajal? We don't know exactly yet, but let's do a little background on the dude. Let's do a little digging, a little background information to see what he might be up to. So his nickname is El Pollo. I already don't trust him. The chicken. He rose as a 3-star general, and he rose to the director of Venezuela's military counterintelligence directorate, granting him intimate access to state secrets during the Chavez-Maduro eras. He is a loyal Chavista for decades, and he served in the National Assembly and facilitated ties with foreign actors like FARC. That's the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia. Those are rebels, in case you were wondering. He defected in 2017, and it was followed by public support for opposition leader. He did give public support for opposition leader Juan Guaido in 2019, and that was a stunning reversal. So who knows? Maybe this guy got a conscience. You know, maybe he realized that Maduro was a sinking ship. So he evaded capture. He was supporting that ousted leader. And then Carvajal sought asylum in Spain, but he was arrested in 2019 and extradited to the U.S. in 2022. He faces charges of narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation, and weapons trafficking, allegedly tied to the Cartel of the Suns. So we all know that's the cartel that's really embedded extremely strongly into Venezuela. So he pled guilty earlier this year. He's facing a minimum 20-year sentence and up to life imprisonment. Prosecutors accused him of shielding massive cocaine shipments up to 500 tons annually. Yeah, we're not talking about some little corner dealer here, to the U.S. and to Europe. He's incarcerated now, and he frames this letter as atonement, and he offers further cooperation to U.S. authorities while praising Trump's Venezuela policy as absolutely necessary for national security. Okay, and we're going to get into why. Because we don't know what this guy's motives are either. You know, he's facing a 20-year sentence. Maybe he's hoping for a pardon. Maybe he's hoping to provide information, help the CIA, help the FBI. could definitely be part of this guy's motives. But he definitely paints a picture of Venezuela's government that's a hybrid criminal intelligence apparatus, which, again, Maduro runs that apparatus. He's the head of it. It evolved under Chavez. But again, let's talk about these three principles, okay? So it looks like the first one here is narcotic trafficking as weaponized policy. That is a weapon. So again, something that we've been talking about is that drugs can be weapons too. In this situation, poison is a weapon as well. So if you're poisoning somebody, okay, congratulations, you've now just turned that narcotic into a weapon. I mean, we saw it for, hundreds of years. Look at the opium wars. Okay, so the central claim of this from this defector, from this former intelligence operative, the head of their intelligence apparatus, says that the Cartel of the Suns is a military-embedded network that Carvajal says Maduro's inner circle directs to flood U.S. cities with drugs via new routes. Far from rogue corruption, these operations allegedly coordinate with FARC and ELN, that's the National Liberation Army guerrillas, Cuban operatives, and Hezbollah, using Venezuelan weapons, passports, and safe havens. The drugs that reach your cities were deliberate policies coordinated by the Venezuelan regime. Carvajal writes he credits Cuba for originating the strategy to weaponize drugs against the United States. So again, the Cuban philosophy towards the U.S. obviously hasn't been great, and vice versa. But it doesn't surprise me that Cuba is behind a lot of this. So these assertions align with U.S. actions, including 2020 indictments of Maduro and aides like Diaz Soto Cabello worth a $25 million bounty. So he's $25 million underneath Maduro. So, and he's probably sitting there like, how do I get to 50? I just really want to get to 50 for these narco terrorist empires. They're like, they're basically Dr. Evil, and they're like, okay, how do I get more infamous would be my thought about how their brains work. But that's I don't want to go into how their brains work. That's a wild situation. But Maduro, he is got the $50 million bounty. And then since September, that U.S. task force led by the USS Ford is putting pressure on the regime. And this is why, guys. This is why all that pressure is being put on them. So when everybody out there is claiming no war on Venezuela, I agree. A massive boots on the ground war? Absolutely not. I served in the war on terror, the GWAT, the global war on terror, and I'm telling you, having an army private going door to door, thousands of them, that is not the right solution this day and age, especially with social media, with the way that everybody knows what's going on. We don't want that happening. So we want surgical strikes. We want special operations forces. We want airstrikes. We want people who basically know the strategy behind what's going on in Venezuela. And now you're part of that. You're part of that group. Not that you need to go to Venezuela, but you're now a part of the group that's in the know. So that's the first part. It's a strategic operation to derail American society and to infiltrate our cities with poison. So there you go. That's straight from the source. That's not from me. That's from Carvajal. So in that letter that he sent to President Trump. President Trump knows that. We probably knew that before. I mean, way before, with all the intelligence that's been coming in. And that's why that $50 million bounty was put on Maduro. Okay, the second thing is empowerment of criminal gangs. So Carvajal accuses Chavez and Maduro of deliberately weaponizing gangs like Tren de Aragua, facilitating their export beyond Venezuela's borders, including to the U.S., as unofficial enforcers. Venezuelan security forces purportedly granted impunity, aiding migration of violent offenders, of course. So we saw that with people flooding into the country over the last few years. This supports Trump-era deportation drives targeting Venezuelan refugees because some of those refugees probably, tied into the cartel of the Suns. And then the FBI has warnings of coordinated release and deploy schemes while agencies debate the intent. Carvajal's testimony could fuel rhetoric framing immigration as a security risk. So yeah, we all know that. And then espionage and foreign intelligence networks. This might be one of the most important ones. So this is the most alarming claim, in my opinion, because it involves hybrid warfare. That's joint Russian-Cuban operations from Venezuelan soil, including a proposed Chavez-era tap on undersea internet cables linking South America to the United States. Again, espionage is huge. Carvajal said he warned Maduro in 2015 against a Russian listening post on La Orquilla Island, fearing U.S. retaliation. He alleges decades-long infiltration by Venezuelan and Cuban spies posing as opposition figures, even penetrating U.S. naval bases and bribing diplomats and CIA Central Intelligence Agency officers. Cuban intelligence showed me their networks inside your naval bases. Some now are career politicians, he asserts. Interesting. So these operations, as Carvajal warrants, it extends to meddling in U.S. democratic processes with Maduro's circle plotting contingencies for regime survival. So, of course, that's the most important thing to the Maduro regime is to survive. So where do we go from here? Now that you have this little beautiful dose of information from the inner circle of Maduro, well, where we go from here is up to the public perception of how to fight against a narco-terror war. We've never done it before. So again, I'm just here to bring you the news, bring you the breaking updates. Would love to hear what your thoughts are. How do we go up against this? But I think what this does, in my opinion, if I try to stay as unbiased as possible, here's what I feel. Carvajal's revelations, it basically, if substantiated, it exposes Venezuela not just as a failing state, a poor failing state that's just trying to make it, but a calculated adversary who's behind the scenes pulling strings to keep an evil dictator in power. So to me, this underscores the peril that we could find ourselves in if we let a narco state just continue to operate unchecked. So again, checking these assertions, seeing if this is true, I think is something that the entire media should be diving into, not just some washed up fighter pilot on YouTube. Won't mention any names. But I hope this information is helpful, guys. I'll keep you posted as this develops. To me, this is some of the biggest revelations so far in this Venezuela conflict. And I would expect boat strikes to ramp up. I would expect even potential strikes on the regime to ramp up, the Maduro regime, because it's now being exposed for what they really are. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that Carvajal's testimony in the letter to President Trump will actually make a difference? Do you think people will listen to it? Would love to hear what your thoughts are. And then go ahead and follow me on X, follow me on Instagram. And if you would, just watch this little video that pops up right here. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll be traveling for the next few days, so I'll be coming to you from this pop-up studio for breaking news. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. This is Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off.